Hey boys and girls, it's Mrs. Gamina coming to you from Knox Farm State Park. It's in East Aurora. I come here a lot to walk, and the book I'm going to read, Three Hens and a Peacock, takes place on a farm just like this. So I thought I'd read it to you at this farm. It's like a little field trip. Before I read you the story, I want to teach you about making an inference. Making an inference, an educated guess of the text based on clues in the text and what we already know. And we're going to use this chart to help us make an inference of the story. Here's where we're going to put our background knowledge, what I already know, our text clues, and the inference that we're going to support with evidence in the story. So let's see what educated guess we can make, what inference we can make. And after I'm done reading, I thought I'd take you for a little walk through Knox Farm. Three hens and a peacock. Three hens and a peacock. Oh, here's a picture of the farm. Very similar to this one. Things were quiet on Tucker's farm. The cows chewed their cud. The hens clucked and pecked and laid their eggs. The old hound stretched out on the porch, watching and listening. Once in a while, someone would stop and buy tomatoes or corn. Perhaps a quart of milk. Nothing unusual happened there until that peacock showed up. The cows and the hens and the old hound kept right on doing what they'd always done. But that peacock had never lived on a farm. He had no idea what to do. So he spread his fancy feathers and set to shrieking. So I already can say what I already know about a peacock. Okay, well, look at the chart. I already know about a peacock that a peacock usually does not live on a farm, and they mostly live in Asia forest or in the zoo. The cows and the hens and the old hound kept right on doing what they'd always done, but that peacock had never lived on a farm. He had no idea what to do, so he spread his fancy feathers and set to shrieking. Eventually, the peacock wandered down the road. When cars whizzed by, he shook his feathers and cried out in his loudest voice. Of course, folks stopped for a closer look. Day after day, more folks stopped to admire the peacock, and they all bought tomatoes and corn, eggs and milk. Business on Tucker's farm was booming. Everyone seemed happy to have visitors stopping by. I'm going to make an inference here. I'm going to make an inference that the people are only stopping and buying goods to see the peacock. Now we can look for evidence to support that inference. But trouble was brewing in the hen house. The hens were squawking and clucking and flapping their wings. We do all the work around here. I'd like to see that peacock lay one single egg. Exactly. He just struts around screaming. I suppose fancy feathers are more important than laying eggs. That lazy peacock gets all the attention, and we do all the work. Oh, he heard. The peacock heard. The peacock had heard every word. For days he moped about, moaning and groaning. I wish I could be more useful around here. Humph, clucked one hen. The others ruffled their feathers. The old hound stretched and slowly raised his head. Why not let the peacock stay here to be useful while you hens take the glamorous job down the road? The three hens began clucking to one another. What a wonderful plan! Yes, it's a fabulous idea. Oh, ladies, we simply must fancy up our feathers tonight, and nothing but our brightest beads, bangles, and bows. We'll stop traffic for sure, while you girls know I can strut with the best of them. The peacock perked up. Let's do it, he declared. Tomorrow I'll stay here, sit on a nest, and cluck, and we'll get all gussied up, said the hens. We'll be so glamorous. At sunrise the next morning, the hens strutted down the road. The peacock marched right to the hen house and poked his head inside. The hens flocked by the road waiting for a car. When they saw one approaching, they clucked and squawked and flapped their wings in a flurry of feathers, but every car whizzed right on by. So there's some evidence that the people were only stopping for the peacock because they were not stopping for the chickens. And I'm going to put that on our evidence, our text clues. The peacock sucked in his tummy and wiggled from left to right, trying to squeeze through the tiny henhouse door. His front half was in, his back half was out. Down by the road, those hens tried every chicken trick they knew. Still no cars stopped. So there's more evidence. Even if the chickens did tricks, they did not stop the cars because they were not the peacock. And I'm going to put that under text clues. It's raining here, but I'm going to keep on going. Okay, I had to move inside the milk house here at Knox Farm, and I'll finish the story. Finally, the peacock made it into the hen house. He held his breath and pushed with all his might. But no matter how hard he tried, he could not lay a single egg, not one. The hound stretched out on the porch, watching and listening. "What's that peacock doing in the hen house?" asked Farmer Tucker. "Who knows?" said Mrs. Tucker. "And what are those hens doing down by the road? Not a one of them is up here laying eggs." "Well, the way things are going, we aren't likely to have anyone buying eggs today," said Farmer Tucker. "We need that peacock down there stopping cars." And there's more evidence, another clue. Farmer Tucker said, we need that peacock down there stopping cars. So I'm going to put that under text clues. When the peacock heard that, he smiled the biggest smile he ever saw on a bird's beak. "I am helping," he thought. He squirmed back and forth until he popped out of the cramped hen house. Then he trotted off to find the hens. The exhausted hens were all clucked out. Every feather was out of place. What a day! We couldn't get one car to stop. It's true. Why, most of them didn't even slow down. And there's more evidence, another text clue. The peacock met the hens as they trudged up the road. "I can tell you I'm no good at laying eggs," he said. "I'm just not meant for it." One hen nodded. "I put on my stellar strut, and even I couldn't stop a single car," she said. "I have to hand it to you, Fancy Feathers. Your job is harder than it looks." The other hens agreed. The peacock looked relieved. So the hens marched back to the hen house. The peacock strutted down to the road. The old hen house The old hound stretched out on the porch, watching and listening, and things were quiet again on the Tuckers' farm. But if you look closely, there's another mysterious box being dumped at the farm. So my inference is supported by evidence and clues and the background knowledge. Making inferences helps us better understand a story. So when you read, make inferences. Now we're going to do a little tour in this milk house. So in the milk house here, there's a museum. Here is a photograph of an art exhibit they had here. They had horse sculptures. And there's a lot of history on the walls in here. Here is Seymour Knox. He owned this farm and his family. That's a portrait of Seymour Knox by Andy Warhol, 1985. Here's a cattle auction. In the 1940s into the late 1960s, they did cattle auctions here. They had polo games here. And they still have one once a year, and anyone can come and see. They used to have an East Aurora hunt. The East Aurora hunt began in 1931 and was open to all those interested in the sport. Here's a photograph of the Knox family in Egypt. Mr. and Mrs. Knox in Egypt around 1910 with Seymour II and one of their daughters, Dorothy or Marjorie, in front of the Sphinx and Giza pyramids. Here's a photograph of them in their car, old car. Here is a map, an old map of East Aurora. A photograph of an old 5 and dime store. An old birdhouse. An old saw. These are antiques. And that ends the tour in here in the milk house. Here's part 2 of the Knox Farm State Park tour. This is the mansion where the Knox family lived. It's starting to rain, so I gotta cover the phone here with my mask. This is the front door. Take a little peek inside. They hold craft shows here now, and you could have weddings here. Hi. Hi. I'm gonna walk around so you can see the back of the mansion. It's a little garden here, or I shouldn't say little, a big garden. Patio. It's a sculptured Japanese garden. This was their backyard. Huge, beautiful view. Here's the back of the mansion. Try to get another peek inside here. Little herb garden. Back then they had to plant everything they ate and grow it. This is the where they kept their carriages. And that's the mansion.